Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's a pleasure to have you. How have things been going for you?
Very well, my friend. Really good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with something about you, something that you can tell our listeners right now that's been really impactful in your life.
Yeah, in my early 30s, in my leadership development journey, I reflected on what was really important to me, and it was love. I got really clear on this sense of leadership and love is almost the same thing, and I found that through pain. If I'm honest, I was at a point in my life where my relationship at home was falling apart, and my work life, I just didn't feel like I mattered. I didn't feel like I belonged, and it took me back to, unfortunately, being 12 years old, brought up in a um, I was raised by a single parent family. My dad left when I was 6 months old, but I had a stepdad, and my mum unfortunately separated from him when I was 12, and I had a brother and sister, and my stepdad came back to pick us up for a weekend out, and like I can remember seeing the car pull up outside the front of the house, excited. We're all going to go and spend some time with him. I hadn't seen him for a little while, but I'd forgotten something, so I went back upstairs, and I came back down, and he had gone with my brother and sister. So I wasn't his child; he was my stepdad, and it was just like, oh, for the second time in my life, just felt abandoned. And that's when I realized, as a early 30s, that the thing that hurts me most, and therefore the opposite of what matters to me most, is this sense of love. It breaks me to feel unloved, unwanted. I spent years and years just seeking love and validation without really realizing it growing up. I was always that kid that was, um, I was told that I was arrogant because I would tell people all the things that I was doing and was achieving, and I was striving to be the best. But I never saw myself as arrogant. I was just this kid that needed to find love, and that was just my way of seeking that. But it wasn't until I found leadership that I realized that it's just not about me, and it's not about me, and I found that through parenting as well. That you realize that it's when it's not about you, that actually you can use the pain in your own journey, your own story, and turn that into purpose by making, for me, that love, that leading with love, making people feel when they come to work that they matter, like they belong, like they have meaning, and that they can contribute to something bigger than themselves. That's all I ever wanted. And as a leader, I thrive on creating that environment now for others.
If someone right now is going through some pain, some hardships like you were in your life, and they're kind of lost, they don't really know where to go, but they know that they need that love, like you said, and want to make an
Mm.
impact in this world, where do they start? What's that first thing that they can begin doing to make a change in their life?
On a podcast interview a while back, someone once said to me, a great bit of advice is that you've survived every single one of your bad days. And I think it's just starting with that. Is starting with that, you're going to make it through. Just have that undying belief that you're going to make this, you're going to get through it, and you're going to be fine. And then you can then start to reflect on, why am I hurting? What is causing me this pain? So for me, it was this sense of, at work, not feeling like my contribution was valued, not feeling like my development and my future was being looked after. So you then start to, well, why is that causing me pain? Why is that causing me discomfort? And through that habit of self-reflection, that continuous asking the question more to learn more about yourself and others, that you really gain a framework of understanding around what's important to you.
It sound
And I
Oh yeah.
can
It sounds like your mindset kind of changed, and that's kind of what you're talking about, is how you think about yourself and how you think about your life. What does mindset kind of mean to you? Like, how would you explain mindset to someone else who's not quite familiar with that?
I try and make things as simple as I possibly can. And for me, mindset is just the way that we think. And I think mindset is really important because the way that we think will inform the way that we act, and ultimately the results that we get. So it starts with that, the way that we either talk to ourselves, also known as psychology. I come from a psychology background. Um, yeah, that's where it is, just the way that we think.
And you have the mindset of always better than yesterday. That's what your podcast is called. Can you explain that? Can you explain to our listeners what it means to be always better than yesterday?
Mm. About 3.5 years ago, I was in a coaching workshop, and the tutor there, she was asking us one question 10 times, and it was just, what is important to you about being a coach? And 3.5 years ago, I wrote down for the first time that I love helping people be always better than yesterday. I don't know where it came from, divine, wherever that might be, but this phrase has never left me. And it's front and center of my why. And I want to leave the world in a better place than it was yesterday. Not in a grand sense of the vision, not like in a huge kind of transformational, but it's very intentional. My mindset is to take any opportunity that I can to make a positive difference to someone's day. It's that call to action. It's that reminder that I have a purpose on this planet, and for me, that is about helping others be someone they love, help do what they love with the people that they love. Because I think that more people that are able to do that and be that naturally are more fulfilled. They then go on and make more of a difference to the lives of people around them, whether that be their children, whether that be their teammates, whether that be their church, their community. I genuinely believe it's that leadership and leading with love is what will transform people, teams, and communities from the inside out.
You touched on something there of not making a grand difference, or at least not focusing on that grand difference at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. You talk about the small changes that kind of add up to that grand change and affecting people on that smaller level, which the more people you affect, obviously the greater change you're gonna make in the end. Can you tell our listeners about the small things that you do day to day, how they can add up and not get carried away with, I can't change the world because I don't have that kind of power, but I can change myself right now. I can change those
Mm-hmm.
around me. What do you say to that?
I'm very fortunate that I have always followed my curiosity. And some people put their curiosity into why things are made. Like they thrive upon ripping an engine apart. Like you can't see, but my hands are really soft. I've been nowhere near a car engine in my life. What I'm really curious about is human beings. And when you turn that curiosity to ourselves, we become learners. And if you can, like, I call it a lifelong learner, and that's how I would describe myself. I have that sense that, leaders are lifelong learners. There are no experts in leadership. We're all on the same journey. We're all students of leadership. And when you apply that to yourself, like for me, some of my toolkit is um, audiobooks. Like if you're on a commute to school or to work or wherever that might be, I've just real small change, just adding in audiobooks or a podcast, because it's just it's better for you. It gives you more. I think learning about these little habits, that I guess that's what they're called, is that if we get them working right, they serve us. They give something to us rather than sitting on Netflix and just taking our time, taking our energy, whatever that might be. For me, I get up early in the morning, and this isn't advice, because there's a number of people out there that say you need to get up at 5 a.m, you need to do the miracle more, whatever that might be. My advice is always, you need to find what works for you and what serves you well. What serves me well is getting up and having time on my own. I have two very small children. They are 7 and 5, and when they are up, they are up, and I am constantly having to be parent and to serve them. I want some time for myself. And I found that if I create time for myself in the evening, I'm almost clinging on to this sense of I want my time. And invariably, it makes my tomorrow harder. Because I'm a leader, because I'm responsible for the lives of other people, they need me at my best. And I found that through discovery and self-awareness, that I'm at my best when I have energy. I also found that getting up early, going for a run, going to the gym, as horrible as that might sound to start with, gives me energy. So it makes sense. It becomes that point that you, as a leader, you do the things you don't immediately want to do because you know the benefit on the other side is what's going to make a difference and help you be at your best for those that need you most.
Those habits and the things that you repeat on a consistent basis every day, those are the really important things in anyone's routine, and changing that mindset like we talked about, getting into that energy and time to yourself is so important. And when I was reading about you, you're a topic that keeps coming up and you've discussed it already today, and that's love.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that I don't hear that a lot. You don't hear that a lot in the
Mm.
business world, in the leadership community, anywhere for that matter. Can you just deconstruct why love is so important to all of us?
Love, my simple definition of love is putting someone else's needs before your own. Also, my leadership definition is putting your own needs to one side to serve others. It's one of the same. And I think the reason why love in leadership is so important is because it's to lead is going to require sacrifice. I think I come from a policing background where leadership positions are almost exchanged for how long you've been doing the job or how good you are. You know, it's that rank, that position, that hierarchy. And as a result, they don't sign up to the sacrifices that true leadership requires, which is giving of your time, your energy, your resources, sometimes your safety and your vulnerability. Um, they didn't sign up for that. They just wanted the promotion. They wanted the rank. They wanted the entitlement. And that's why love has to come first. You have to care about the work that you do, the people that do the work, and to create the environment which connects, unites people through this sense of loving who we are, loving what we do, but also recognizing that love is tough. Love is the strongest emotion. I know you and I have a connection in Patrick Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions. We both enjoy
Yeah.
that work. Well, you know that part of that model is about having good conflict. Now, that's what it means to love tough, is to have that conflict, but you've already created that sense of, I care about you. You are safe in my company, but I'm going to say these things because I want to help you be better. And too often we have leaders that don't lead with love, that shy away from the difficult conversations, and they don't do us the benefit of helping us be better as a result.
I'm so glad you mentioned Patrick Lencioni's book. Those first two dysfunctions, for anyone not familiar, is building that trust, which then leads into that healthy conflict. And you can't have number two, the healthy conflict, without a strong foundation of that trust,
Mm-hmm.
that love, that vulnerability that everyone on the team can have, that emotional safety. I'm curious, how have you been able to apply that to your leadership journey, to the teams that you've worked with, to your family
Mm-hmm.
for that matter? Because his models can be applied anywhere. How have you taken those trust and conflict and anything else? How have you applied that?
He talks about vulnerability based trust. And what that really means is just being real, because here's the thing, leadership is tough. And there are too many people out there that try and portray on the surface that they've got it all together. And I think sometimes that creates distance between those that we have relationship with. And I think the one thing I've always committed to doing, heart on my sleeve, I say it as it is, you know what I'm thinking, you know what I'm feeling. I make a commitment to be myself. In my early days in the police, as I was developing, I had a huge sense of pressure because I felt I needed to be a certain way when I got promoted. My leadership environment was very much, the conversations I was having led me to feel like I needed to change who I was to fulfill the role. And it caused a lot of conflict in me to want to fit in and belong, but also to do it uniquely and to do it my way. And I'm a big fan of Brene Brown's work. And she says, you know, true belonging isn't changing yourself to fit in. It's being yourself and knowing that that's enough. And we can intellectually know that, but there's a point where we truly know that. And sometimes we have to go through pain around trying to sacrifice who we really are, lose ourselves in the process to really discover what's important to us about the way we show up, the way that we lead, the way that we communicate. And that's what it means to really lead ourselves from the inside out, to really get clear on who we are, what we stand for, what we're good at, the gifts that we have to share with the world, that we want to serve others. Um, and it's in doing that that we really create this authentic leadership. There's a huge surge in the rise of a authentic leadership. And I don't think we would need that phrase if we didn't have such a distrust for leaders that weren't authentic, that were pretending to be somebody else. So I think authentic leadership, I think vulnerability based leadership is not being the leader, it's you as the leader.
A lot of the people listening right now are those teen leaders that maybe
Mm.
haven't had those experiences to fail and not be the great leader and then get that feedback. You mentioned being yourself and being that authentic leader. How can someone who is just getting started do that? What would you say to them just right now?
You'll know from my three pillars. The first pillar, before you can lead others and before you can lead a legacy, is to first lead ourselves. And for me, what's really helped is I love a good psychometric profile. We might talk about insights, color profiles, Myers-Briggs. Anything that can create a framework for understanding ourselves is really beneficial, because then when we realize that actually there's loads of things that we are not, well, we understand that that isn't because we're rubbish and that's a failure. That's just not how we're built. That's just not who we are. And that should give us more encouragement to pick up those things that we absolutely truly are. The strengths and the character traits and the personality that we are, because so much about the world and society is there to reveal what we don't have, who we are not, to create this gap between where we are and what we want. And that's what we're marketed to and we're sold to all the time. But true leadership, true self-awareness brings us back into ourselves and focuses on what we do have, not what we don't have. Start from there. And if you don't know any resources to go and do some psychometric profiles, go and ask someone that you trust. Go and ask someone, whether that be a family member, whether that be someone on a sports team, whatever that. And just go, what do I do really well? What do you really respect about me? What do you admire about me? And that might be really uncomfortable, but it takes practice. And just sit and listen to what they say. And and as a leader, I facilitated so many of these conversations where we take the time to recognize the good in each other. They are some of the most powerful conversations you can have with another human being, is to simply look at someone and go, I really admire the way you do X.
Now that they know how to lead themselves and take that time to reflect and see what they're good at, what they're not good at, your next pillar is leading others. How can they do that?
A number of ways. We talked about the Lencioni model. That's all about creating um, high performing teams. But before we do that, we really need to know what sort of culture we want to create. And the leader will create the culture, whether they've done that intentionally or they've not, because so goes the leader, so goes the way. And I shared a picture on my Instagram yesterday of just a bit of tongue in cheek with my hat on backwards, and behind me, my daughter had her hat on backwards. And the metaphor there really is the image is that people don't copy what you say, they copy what you do. People don't follow what you say, they'll follow what you do. And so that's really important as a leader, to want to lead others, is to really create this clarity as to how should we behave, who are we, what are our strengths, what are our individual roles, responsibilities, and the way that we can contribute and connect to the pinnacle of the model, which is this uniting purpose. What are we here to do? And a great leader, if they want to lead others, will create clarity around why we're here, and the great work that we're able to contribute to. And they will use their ability to identify everybody's strengths and allow people the opportunity to contribute to that bigger picture.
Developing a culture has kind of been a buzzword topic
Mhm.
recently in the last few years. That culture of having those big, cool words on the side of your wall or on a t
Mhm.
shirt. And it sounds really cool and all, but it's not really the purpose of culture or that clarity, like you said.
Mhm.
Patrick Lencioni talks about this, is no one's ever gotten fired for over communicating too much, being
Mhm.
too clear about their mission or their
Mhm.
why. So how can leaders and teams not fall into that trap of putting just really flashy words up on that screen or that wall? How can they truly find what's important to them?
It's the difference between this and this, because this says it's the right thing to do. We should define our values. That's a good thing to do. Tick, tick, tick boxes. Whereas this says this is what's really important to us. This is how we should behave. It starts with here because there's that genuine will and intent to create this environment where people can come in and deliver great work, solving great problems with great people to something that is bigger than themselves. And great leaders will recognize that. They will be unapologetic. And you're right that there are too many organizations out there that have defined their values that get stuck up on the wall and don't get used. And it's almost worse to define a set of values and to not live them, because everybody in the organization can see then the contradiction. It's almost say one thing, do another, undermines trust every single day. It's almost it's not even a negative, it's not even neutral, it's negative at that point. By defining your values, you've actually negatively affected your company culture. The opposite then is true around if you can define it and recognize that values are verbs, they are actions, that actually you can then use that to get the right people, so that you can get the people that really bring to life that you can reward, you can recognize. It's front and center. If you want to create a healthy culture, you have to live your values.
For those of you who couldn't see, Ryan was just talking about the difference between the heart and the mind of
Sure.
leadership. That's what he was pointing to. I wish y'all could see that because that's so impactful and it's so true. Ryan, how have you been able to lead with your heart and focus on what's inside of you, not just what other people have been telling you or what might be the strategically correct thing to do? How have you been able to do that?
Mm, it's a really good question. And I think, I've been fascinated with leadership now for a good 7 to 8 years. And when I first started, I was all about the mindset and understanding how you can use your mind to take you to places where you might not otherwise have gone. Well, that's great. But what I've really learned over time is the heart sets the direction. The heart really knows what's important to you and where to go. So there has to be a balance of both heart and mind. But I think it starts with the heart. The heart knows what we love. The heart knows who we are, who we have the potential of becoming. And then we need to use the mind to figure out the smartest way of getting there. And it's a good balance of both. And I love what Dr. Kerry Evans says in his book Perform Under Pressure. He's developed the red, the blue model that the All Blacks used in their rugby team. You can't just live life fully from the heart or fully from the mind, because if you're in the heart, you'll be fully emotional. You won't have the logic and the rational steps to take. But likewise, if you just have the logic, the strategy, the ration, sometimes you don't have the energy and the motivation to go and get it. So it starts here in the heart, recognizing that that's where our fuel and our fire and our purpose and our values and what's important to us about the work that we do, the way that we show up, the way that we connect with our people and our teams and our people that we serve. But know that it's our mind then that can take that and deliver it in a way that is smart and effective.
Ryan, we've talked about leading yourself and then leading others. And that third part to your pillar series is leaving a legacy. Can you talk about that and kind of the legacy that you want to leave?
Mm. My legacy isn't actually about me. My legacy is about the work that those that I impact go on to do. I am really passionate about helping people feel confident to believe in themselves and do more of what they love. And I think that more people that are able to do what they love will naturally make a difference to those around them. I think I said that earlier. So the totality effect of more people doing what they love is that communities get better people. And when we get better people, we have better ideas, sharing of ideas, we have better support networks, and we get, I think, good people bring out the good in people. And the more that I can help develop good people, they will go on and bring out the good in more people. And I just think the sum of my impact is exponential, not because of me, but because of the work that those that I positively impact go off and do in the world.
One final question here, and that's what distinguishes great team leaders, the ones that go above and beyond and excel and inspire others and change the world? What distinguishes them from the ordinary and average ones who don't necessarily strive to make that impact? What have you found is that distinguishing factor?
Intent. I think a lot of that is intention, because I think when we have that intention to be a positive light in the world, we will take the action that we need to, because in the moment, it's in the small moments. It's in the small moments that if we're too busy, we're too preoccupied with our own goals in the future, we can miss our ability to make a difference in the moment. And you just never know the impact that one interaction can have with a human being. And I'm very fortunate enough to know some of the impacts because I've been intentfully having them intentionally for long enough now. So I know the value and I have the belief in micro moments. My good friend Jonathan Darling will say that actually, if you take those opportunities when they present themselves to breathe life into other people by calling out their greatness, by telling them what you like, admire, what people are great for, or even giving them that feedback that maybe feels uncomfortable to give, but you come from a heart-led position of, I'm only telling you to help you be better. Great leaders will naturally make more of a difference and have an impact because they've chosen to.
You have to go out and be intentional. Put that intention to whatever you're
Mm,
doing. Don't just go through the motions. Really put some heart, like we've talked about, behind
mm.
what you're doing. And that's such great advice for anyone listening. Ryan, how can people find you and how can they connect with you and kind of learn more about what you're doing and get inspired from that?
That's very kind of you. So you can head to Instagram. I'm at Ryan B. Hartley, ryanhartley.co.uk, or the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast on all platforms. Just if you come across any of my platforms, then everything is geared to helping you be always better than yesterday through the power of your heart and your mind.
And that podcast is really unique with its short snippets. It's
Mm-hmm.
those almost daily little episodes, like 1 to 3 minutes. Everyone has 1 to 3 minutes in their day that they can take to improve themselves. So I encourage all of you to go out and check that out. It's not,
Thank you.
there are some interviews there, I'm pretty sure,
Mm-hmm.
that are
Mm-hmm.
longer. Take the time to listen to those, but it's those short ones that you can take something from and then always better than yesterday. So, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the episode today. It was an amazing one with so much value.
Keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Have a great day.
Thank you.